Welcome to Fundraising Stories with Female Founders. I'm Julia Elliott-Brown, the founder and CEO of Enter the Arena. I'm a serial entrepreneur and an expert in raising investment and business growth. Our mission at Enter the Arena is to empower female founders to fly through pre-raise and investment and onto the exponential growth of their business with investment expertise and business coaching. Here we share the stories of inspirational female founders who've raised investment to inspire you to do the same. You'll hear their honest accounts of what it was really like to secure funding, the highs, the lows, and the challenges they experienced on the journey. And along the way, we'll discuss top tips for how you can be successful too. Today I'm speaking with Krisi Smith, the co-founder and creative director of award-winning tea company Bird and Blend. Now, Bird and Blend are on a mission to spread happiness and reimagine tea with innovative and exciting flavours. From small beginnings, almost 10 years after they started, they now have a team of over 100 staff, 15 retail stores, and a thriving international online business. Chrissy's raised over £1.3 million in investment through crowdfunding over 2 separate rounds to help grow the brand further. So put the kettle on and make yourself a nice cup of tea, and let's learn more about Chrissy's journey, how she found the whole experience of raising investment and what she learned along the way. So hi, Chrissy, it's great to see you.
Hello, thanks for having me.
And we're speaking to you there. I guess you're in your office or your warehouse. Where are you today?
Yeah, I am. So we moved into a shiny new warehouse in the middle of COVID, actually. So we're still decorating and doing it up in the office spaces because we've only just sort of got back to office life. But the swanky new warehouse has got all sorts of fun things in there. I mean, you probably wouldn't find it fun, but for me, there's lots of great tea packing machines and loads of space and racking, and it was brilliant. Yeah, I'm very excited to move into our new building. But
yeah, it must be lovely to be back in
and
person.
It's so lovely to be back in person. And yeah, we're down on the south coast in Brighton. So yeah, it's sunny at the moment as well, which is wonderful.
Yeah, it's a lovely place to be.
Yes.
So you started Bird and Blend, it's quite a while ago now, isn't it, with your co-founder Mike?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. You met at university. So tell us about that. Kind of what on earth made the pair of you want to start making and selling tea when you were back at uni?
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't believe it's been 10 years. In some ways it feels like only yesterday, and in some ways it feels like so much longer. But yeah, we met at university. We're flatmates at uni, you know, we were really good friends. We're both studying politics, philosophy, and Mike was doing economics as well, and I was doing psychology, and just got to know each other, and we ended up dating, and I think we both had a similar background in terms of we were quite academic, and we were loving learning at uni, but actually didn't really see ourselves going into a typical career in what we were studying. I guess there's loads of people that I think have a similar experience with university. It's great to go and learn, but maybe you don't want to go into politics, say. And we didn't really know what we were going to do. So we took a year out after uni and went out to Canada and did a year ski instructing. And while we were out there, we were sort of thinking about what our next steps were. I think a lot of the pressure from outside was sort of, you know, get on a grad scheme in the big city and be a lawyer or a banker or, you know, something like that, use your fine mind and all that sort of thing. But it just didn't seem to sit right with both of us. And we were sort of tinkering around and tried a couple of different business ideas that didn't go anywhere. And finally I accidentally ended up working for a tea company out in Canada to try and pay off my credit card bill that I'd managed to max out from, you know, skiing and partying, and I absolutely loved it. I learned all about blending and the creative side of tea, and thought, do you know what, there's no one in the UK doing this. You know, we associate tea with tea rooms and history, and it also can be quite a premium industry, you know, where you have to learn quite a lot to get into the, you know, the ins and outs of how to brew the perfect tea and the origins and single estate, like the wine industry, really. And I thought, why is nobody doing this sort of blending with flavour first? It was quite fun, very accessible. And I thought, you know what, I think I can do this. So I said to Mike, I think I found our business idea. This one's going to work. I convinced him to move back to the UK for the summer and give it a go. So we started going to markets and selling tea that we packed in our bedroom, and I learned how to code a website via YouTube. And it's very small beginnings, and it just went really, really, really well. And a year later we'd opened our first store in Brighton, and the rest is history, really. It's snowballed, which is a great situation to be in, but sometimes it does feel a little bit like I'm clinging on to a runaway train, to be perfectly honest. But it's been an adventure. It's been an amazing adventure.
But an adventure that started with an adventure. And I think
yes
very inspirational to hear that, the beginnings of that story. And it's so great when you sort of go out into the world and bring those innovations back to the UK. That's absolutely wonderful. Because I do remember back 10 years ago, there was, even 6 years ago, 5 years ago, there was very going on in this space. It was all about coffee.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that especially with like food trends and things and industry trends, they tend to come across, there'll be something going on in one part of the world and it's not quite hit yet. And I think Canada and North America were already experimenting with a lot of their food, their mixology, that experience-based food element. And I happened to be immersed in that and thought, do you know what, I think this is coming. And then obviously we did do due diligence. We looked at the market, and a little bit of luck was in there as well, because the green tea and flavored tea sector was growing at that point. So we hit it just at the right time to be a leader in that, and we followed that along, and also I hope contributed to that market as well. So a little bit of luck, but it was a good business decision, I think, to pin it on, well, obviously 10 years later. But your comment about an adventure from an adventure, one of the things I get asked about a lot is, how did you finance your business idea, but how did you take the first step? Because a lot of people are, that's quite a frightening or quite a difficult first step to make. But I think both of us were, we were out there, on an adventure. So we didn't really have a mortgage we had to give up. We didn't have a really high paying job that was paying the bills. We didn't really. So we just started from not really anywhere, which I'm, fortunate. Looking back, I'm fortunate that's the case. And, we didn't spend a lot of money because we didn't have any money. So I can completely see why, if now, if I was a bit older and I had a really well-paying career and mortgage and kids and stuff, it would be a lot more difficult to maybe take the leap. Although there are ways, but there's
pros and cons, isn't there? Those people
Yes.
who've got that career, it's hard to give that up. But on the other hand, maybe they have the resources.
Yes.
And that it can be very hard when you're trying to do it really early days out of uni, when you don't have a lot of money, you haven't got access to capital.
We didn't have anything.
You went down that road of hustling and did you start kind of literally from the kitchen table?
Yeah, exactly. It was literally the kitchen table. My mum said to me, you can have 6 months rent free, move into the spare bedroom, and then go and get a proper job type thing. But so it was literally, there was a little stainless steel food safe area that the council had to come around and give us our food safety permit. It was in the corner of our bedroom, and all the tea creation and the drinks creation was done in the kitchen on my mum's sideboard. And we brought a clapped out van off eBay for 250 quid. It was like a little Bedford rascal, and we just load it up and go and sell tea at markets at the weekend. So and I think now looking back, I realize that's such a great origin story. People are so interested in that. By the time we were just trying to do something. So we learned as we went along, absolutely. And
but that kind of that grassroots marketing that you do is also so invaluable, isn't it? In terms of understanding your customer, testing out your product, seeing what works. And I think there's a danger sometimes for people who kind of go out and raise investment really early on before they've done that. It's dangerous. It
really is. And looking back on it, that contact with the customers, for the first 3 years of our business, Mike and I had constant contact with our customers. We were answering the phone, we were on the social media, we were stood behind the market stall. When we first opened our first store, we worked the shop floor for the first 6 months, and that was a little bit from my point of view, because I'm a bit of I'm a bit of a not control freak, but I've got really high attention to detail. I really want to make sure I get it right. So I wanted to be there. But in hindsight, I learned so much from that instant feedback from the customers. I got to know them inside and out. And also they become such loyal fans because they were, going along on the journey with us almost. And it was invaluable to building the foundations in the early days. So yeah, I'm really very grateful that we did that. It was a great start to the business. And I can remember having a conversation with Mike about a year in, when I'd said, I think I was being impatient. We'd had Brighton open for 3 months. Brighton was our first store, which we managed to open. We took a government, a startup loan to open the Brighton store number 1, and kit it out from, it was all recycled materials and stuff we'd found in tips and stuff. And I probably shouldn't admit this, but I did the like wired in the lighting. I mean, we very quickly got that fixed, but by a certified electrician, but bootstrapped it. But we'd been open about 3 months and it was going really well. And I can remember going to Mike at that point and saying, we've got this, we've proven the model, let's go raise money now. Let's go raise the money and open, 10 shops and build this new website. And, look at all this amazing feedback we've got from the customers. Look at the money coming in. I mean, it wasn't loads, but it was coming in. And then he said to me, well, I think we should perhaps, model this properly so that we really do understand the ins and outs of what this business is before we go and raise, big type thing. Because, we don't need to necessarily put ourselves in debt or to give away equity at this point if we can do it ourselves. And again, I'm quite grateful for that as well, that we decided to do that.
Very smart, getting a really good handle on the mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not it's less guesswork when you're scaling. Yeah. But did you think in those early days, did you always have those ambitions that the business would be big, or did that happen sort of more organically?
No, yeah, we always knew we wanted to have multiple retail spaces. We always knew that we wanted to have a physical space element to our business. So it was never just going to be an online business. It was always going to have some sort of, retail space. We also knew that we didn't want to be a wholesale business. So, we turned down pretty much all of the major supermarkets by the end of year 2 who would approach us. We didn't want to be account managers. Financial model, like that would probably be a much more, we'd be making more money perhaps, but that's not what we wanted. We didn't necessarily want to be on every high street. It's never been the aim to get it to 400 stores, but we wanted to be on enough experience-based sort of high streets that someone could come and visit us without too much of a journey, if they, because it's all about getting in store and smelling the teas and having a demo and coming to a workshop. That's where the brand comes to life.
Yeah, very
isn't it?
And it is. I love what you said there about how you turn down the supermarkets. I mean, who does that?
I know.
But you're right. It's about the most important thing is building a business that you want, not what you think investors want.
Yeah, and I think because the business is born out of the, in store, our teas are on a big wall, a bit like a sweet shop. And we weigh them out and things. They don't really have packaging on them, really. The team member is the packaging. Like they go through that. It's a whole experience, and we spend a lot of time with our managers and our team in store, to get them into our way of thinking. Like it's okay if someone comes in and spends half an hour chatting about all things tea and buys 2 20-gram samples that are £3 each. That's fine, because they're there to have that experience, learn about the teas. We can convert them later online if that's what they want to do, or they'll come back and buy a bigger, etc. And I think that when we looked at the supermarket, it was like, well, we've learned how to sell this tea and how to talk and make this connection with our customers around education and passion and knowledge. Yes, they taste great, but that isn't going to translate as well into a piece of packaging on a supermarket shelf. And obviously your prices get squeezed as well. And, you lose, as an early business, we were slightly worried about brand reputation and being squeezed on those things. So I never say never, but we've said no so far.
Okay, interesting. And so those early days, so startup loan, great way to get out of the blocks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody who's in their first couple of years of business should be looking at that. So great way to get out of the blocks. So what point did you think, right, now we're ready to scale, now we need to go out and get some rocket fuel, some investment to take this to the next level?
Yeah, great question. So we managed to bootstrap everything. We had £5,000 savings to start the business. We took the startup loan to open the Brighton store, and then which we opened in 2014. And then we were able to organically grow off the profits of the it was still a very small scale. You know, Mike and I weren't taking a salary, only had a few team members. You know, we were still packing all the online orders. So we bootstrapped and managed to grow the business to 3 stores. So we had Brighton, Bristol and Tunbridge Wells. So we opened Tunbridge Wells so that we could test having 2 stores. So it was near enough we could drive between within, you know, half an hour. And then we opened Bristol because we wanted a store far enough away that we could again test what it was like to have a store that we couldn't visit, you know, and fix something and have a remote team. So we got to those 3 stores and we thought, this is going really well. We think we're pretty confident now what the business looks like in terms of the store locations and the management. You know, I had a small team in our warehouse then. We think we now are stable enough and at a good enough place to take this to, we wanted to open 4 new stores, including London and a tea mixology school. We thought we had the model and we're like, let's just raise the money. If we raise the money, it should just be a bit like a, you know, slot machine type thing. Money goes in, model's built, money comes out. And that's what we did. So it was when we thought we had enough of an understanding and a solid foundation to grow it. And we worked out how much we needed to do that. And then we went for it.
Yeah. You decided to crowdfund. Your target, I think I'm right in saying it was 160k.
Yes, it was.
And quite frankly, you smashed that.
Yeah, we did.
In 2017. So tell us about the experience of crowdfunding back then.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really, really fun and, you know, yeah, it was a really fun time, actually. You know, I got the chance to run basically a marketing campaign for funding, for crowdfunding, and Mike's got a really, really strong financial background, you know, or interest, not background, interest in finances. He got to take the business through this, you know, this raise, and as individuals, as business owners, we found that such a great year to be in business. We were learning loads. It was really invigorating. We had a very small team at the time, so everything was still really quick and we were sort of jumping on it, and everyone was really, really engaged with it. Internally, we chose crowdfunding because we wanted to capitalize on the fact that we knew we had this really active fan base. We have a great product, we had a proven model, and we had a really, really, really active, loyal fan base that wanted to help us grow. So we thought crowdfunding is great because we'll have, you know, 100 brand advocates overnight that have turned into actually own a piece of the business. So when they're telling their friends, you know, there's this great tea company that I met at market at the weekend, they'll be saying, I own a piece of this great tea company. So marketing, I'm a marketeer, so marketing wise, it's the best way of raising money that you can think of. Yeah,
in terms of, you know, knowing that you've got that kind of engaged customer base, do you remember, I know it's a while ago, but a sense for kind of how big your customer base or your social media following was at the time? Because I know lots of people listening to this will be thinking, how do I know if my customer base is big enough or is of the right quality? Because again, they need to have a certain level of affluence to be able to invest.
Yes.
In right.
That's a good question. So it wasn't huge, you know, certainly less than 10,000 people on our database across, you know, social followers and email database and things like that. It wasn't massive. Although I do appreciate that could be quite large for some people listening, but it wasn't, you know, hundreds of thousands. I remember we worked back from how many, we went to the target of our original target, and we said how many people would have to invest £10 for us to achieve this, how many people would have to invest £50 for us to achieve this, and that's how we worked out, whether or not we thought it was possible. And I think we broke it down into sort of 100 people would need to invest £100, we need 20 people to invest £10,000, and the rest can be £10, donations.
Brilliant.
We were fairly confident that we looked at the conversion rates as well, of like when we put out marketing and campaigns on products, when we launch a product that's around £10 or whatever, how many people actually buy that from us, are excited about that consistently, or engage with our product launches. Because really it was a product launch. Really, we were launching a piece of Bird and Blend to buy, and we knew what our conversion rate was like there, and we knew what our engagement was. So we were fairly confident that we could tempt them with some ownership. And we did like perks as well. They could get a free drink in store, and they get to come into the meetup. And so there are ways of offering value added with crowdfunding. So the person investing gets more than just the equity. They maybe get a free product, or they get, something else as well.
Was that first round, did you just do that with your customers, or did you have a lead investor on that one?
We did have, so we did some warm up. Yeah, we had a couple of investors. They recommend on crowdfunding that you get 30% of your target secured before you go live. Not only is that really helpful for you to keep your target, to have those people involved, but often with crowdfunding, if those people, if you've agreed those deals off platform, you also usually get a better rate as well, because you don't have to pay the fees on the platform. So that's helpful. It also works to tick the dial up. So if you've got, say you're trying to raise, say you've got a third already agreed, the moment it goes live on the crowdfunding platform, your ticker goes up to a third. So anyone else looking at it will be like, oh, that many people have already invested, it's already going. And that generates buzz and excitement, and also authenticity of sort of like, other people are trusting in this, so I should also join in. So it creates momentum as well. So we had about between 5 and 10 of various amounts sort of lined up beforehand, and myself and Mike had done a month of relationship building on that, calling everyone in our, across our contacts, our networks, friends of the business, friends of family, anyone that knew anyone that might be interested. We did, calls, and we went and met up with people, and we, took the time to explain why it was a great investment. Would they consider getting on board? Educated them about crowdfunding as well, quite a lot, because quite a lot of people don't know what crowdfunding is. And for about a month in advance. And then when we went live, you get a month on the platform. And if you don't raise within a month, you don't get the money. So I had a whole marketing campaign of a month's worth of, messaging in the middle to go out that said, oh, we're halfway there, like, please come and invest. And we went live, and it overfunded within 24 hours. So we didn't get a chance to go out with any of the marketing. I was worried that we were going to get to day 29 and having to be emailing everyone like, please invest, but we didn't get a chance. And so to answer your original question, sorry, we had intended for it to be, key pre-warmed up investors first, then our community, which were the sort of £10, £50, £100. So lots of people, but smaller amounts. And then we were intending to top it up and hit target with the crowd community. So that's the people that are searching on platforms like Crowdcube, looking for investment opportunities. And we knew we would be significantly less interesting to them, because although our financials were great, they don't know us. And they're also not our target market. Our market's predominantly female for a start, and a little bit older, whereas Crowdcube's platform tends to be a little bit more male, some females in there as well, obviously, and a bit younger. So we knew that our marketing to those people would be more difficult to do. But like I said, we didn't even get a chance to go into the crowd, because our community sold it out within 24 hours. We were the fastest raised people on the platform that year, and we won fund. I think it was called Entrepreneur of the Year at the crowdfunding awards that year as well.
Amazing. Your
which was madness.
Your customers really surprised you then.
We had no idea it was going to go that well. It was a crazy time. Yeah.
That's great news. So that was back in 2017.
Yes.
And that enabled you to open up some new stores and continue to
Yes.
grow the brand. And you didn't then raise again until, when was the next raise? Was
Last
it
year.
2021? So what happened in the interim? How did things go? How did things go during the pandemic?
Oh, well, do you know what? I get a lot of feedback externally that, you know, it's great. I do, you know, I'm very honest and I give a realistic view, but sometimes Mike, my business partner, is sort of like, Chrissy, can you not be quite so honest? But like the honest reality of that is that you know, coming out of crowdfunding, it was a massive high. We'd raised this money, we set about our aims, and what happened was, yes, we did get those stores open, yes, we got the new you know, systems and bits and pieces in place that we wanted to, you know, riding this big high of spending this money, grew, but very quickly going in 2018, we realized that there were lots of things that had impacted the business that we hadn't thought of from growing that large. For example, we hadn't considered things like the fact that holding stock for double the amount of stores was going to be potentially a cash flow problem. The fact we'd have to recruit and train all those people, and the HR needs for that wasn't factored in. So although we did have a great financial model, we hadn't thought properly, or we hadn't anticipated the impact on the actual day-to-day operations. You know, we grew the business really successfully, and the customers probably wouldn't notice because, you know, we made sure that the service was next level. But behind the scenes, we were like a swan, like our legs were like, you know, stay afloat, stay afloat, stay afloat, trying to backfill the processes and the procedures and the systems that you need to be that big of a business. So we spent nearly the whole of 2018 relaying the foundations. We called it Back to Basics year. That went really, really well. Came into 2019, just finished off a few bits, opened 4 more stores in 2019, which was brilliant. And then we were just about ready to raise again, and COVID hit. So we were ready to raise at the end of 2019, pretty much. So we were going to do that in spring 2020. And then we all know what happened in spring 2020.
But some people still went ahead and did raises. Others decided to lay low.
We did think about it. But to be honest with you, to be brutally honest, our e-com, our online, you know, catapulted overnight, which is brilliant. And the stores all had to be closed. So we had half of our business and half of our employees working the hardest they've ever had to work. Sorry, that's my thing. Like working the hardest they've ever had to work. And then the other half of our business furloughed. So it was one, we didn't necessarily need to raise, because we wouldn't have been able to have done anything with the money, because we were, you know, working on keeping our business happy and these, you know, balancing these two different needs. But also that, you know, the e-com was going so well at the time that, you know, fortunately we actually managed to open 2 more stores in COVID, which I know is a strange concept, but we took the opportunity while, you know, the money was coming in heavily on online. You know, there's a lot less overheads for online, and a lot of businesses, unfortunately, you know, went under. So we thought, you know what, there's quite a lot of units coming up at the moment. Are we mad enough to secure some shop sites when literally the high street is closed? And, you know, we thought, in for a penny, in for a pound. And we opened 2 new stores. Obviously we didn't open them to the public because we couldn't, but we managed to get a couple of really good deals on the high street that we wouldn't have been able to have had. So silver lining, I guess, to COVID. Not to downplay how difficult it has been, but there have been plenty of opportunities. And I think I was speaking to someone the other day about this, when they said, you know, you must have had a really challenging year. And I thought, there isn't a single year that goes by that's not a challenge if you're trying to grow a business, or a single month probably. But I think the difference is that, you know, when you're trying to, you know, grow a business, is that you're looking for opportunities all the time, and you've got to be resilient. So, you know, we were resilient, the team were resilient, we got through. And when we got the opportunity, you know, little opportunities, we took them. And then as soon as we felt like it was safe enough after COVID, like settled enough, we immediately hit go on the crowdfund.
So you were already, so you were all kind of ready behind the scenes to go with it. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's interesting what you say about kind of resilience and spotting opportunities, but it's also knowing, having the excuse my language, but balls. I don't know what the equivalent is to that. I'd love to know if anybody could tell me what the equivalent to balls is.
I would also like to know, so please pass that on.
Having the balls to kind of go, we're taking a punt on that, because nobody knew what was going to be going on. Would be shutting down again, opening up again. So, you know, clearly you've got to be able to take some risks there, calculated risks, but that was a leap of faith that you took. And obviously it's...
Yeah, it was a leap of faith. I think that in that scenario in particular, although, you know, I'm a massive advocate for retail, you know, and it was always a big part of what we wanted to do. You know, people when we started said, don't open stores. Why are you open stores? The high street's dying. This was 10 years ago. And I did think, gosh, maybe our high streets aren't going to look the same on the other side of COVID. And, you know, everyone was shopping online. And me, myself, I went to, you know, my local butcher, and I was doing things I'd never done before. But I still passionately believe that the need for spaces for people for humans to hang out in and spend time with others, physical spaces, I just don't think is going anywhere. Like, fair enough, maybe the traditional high street may be going or changing, but that need to go and do something fun, to meet others, to experience life and products and things like that, that's exactly what you do in one of our stores. So I was confident that this sort of retail 2.0, shall we call it, experience hubs type idea, we stand ourselves in good stead for that. But in terms of taking risks in general, I think, I think when it comes to growing a business and spending money and making risks, you do get to a point a little bit when you think to yourself, you've got to back yourself. You know, we already had 12 stores at that point. If our retail was going to go down, if the retail was going to die, we were already 12 stores, you know, in trouble. What's the difference? It was almost like, what's the difference 15 going to make, you know? But the payoff would have been, and has been, exponentially better. So sometimes with risk, it's kind of, how big is the risk and how likely is it to happen type thing, versus what is the opportunity here. Sometimes you just have to do it, I think.
Before we talk about your last crowdfund, let's just touch quickly on branding, because I know that you've had a little hiccup along the way, or maybe it was a big hiccup, I don't know, where you had to change the branding of yours.
Yeah, so actually that was as a result of crowdfunding, and that's something that we, you know, a lesson we've had to learn. We went from being this sort of startup, this sort of gritty, you know, fly by the seat of our pants startup business, which, you know, we didn't double check everything. You don't in the early days. You know, you try and muddle your way through and not break any laws is the number one rule. But, you know, you do end up doing things you're not quite supposed to do. Like occasionally we had the wrong thing printed on our packaging, or, you know, we used a name. I once we named a tea that had a name in it that, you know, I can't remember who it was. I think it was C.S. Lewis. We had contact us and say, excuse me, that's a phrase from one of my one of the books. And we sent them some tea and apologized. But, you know, in the early days, you don't check everything. And but when we raised and we got, you know, all that press and we took on that money, it makes you grow up. You have to sort of grow up as a business. And that's when it was pointed out to us that actually we didn't have a strong enough case for the ownership of our name, which was Bluebird at the time. I think we took some advice on it in the early days, thought it was fine. It was actually trademarks and things, but it wasn't quite registered in the right category. And I think when we took some advice on it, it was like, well, it might stand up in court, it might not. We're not sure, you know. And when we got challenged on the name by a different company, they were a much bigger company, and they'd seen us through crowdfunding. They'd seen we were opening stores in London where they were based. They'd seen that we'd, you know, all of a sudden we're on their radar. We're not this little tea shop in Brighton. We're this brand that's raising money and going into London. And we got this challenge, and it was really difficult for me because I'm very much the stand up for what you think is right. And, you know, that sort of David and Goliath thing. I hate that sort of thing. It's like bullying in the playground. And I hated the idea that potentially we could be in the right, but that we'd have to I had to have a very stern word with myself, because by this point we were 60 people in the business. And I'm like, am I really going to risk, hundreds of thousands of pounds potentially and resources that we do not have on fighting this, when actually we could just accept it, move on and be in a really positive place in 6 months' time, versus, going to court and all of that. And I had to learn a lesson of what I wanted to do perhaps was not necessarily the right thing for the business.
Great that you took that breath, took that step back.
Yeah.
Actually, in my view, I mean, Bird and Blend is a fabulous brand.
Thank you. Yeah, it was great.
When you look back now, are you happy now? Do you look back and think?
Yeah, I mean, I was super attached to Bluebird because it had come from the origin of being in the Canadian mountains and things. But and we'd done so much work. It was on all of our packaging. We had great SEO. We build up all these social followings, and I was like, this is going to be devastating. Our customers are going to be gutted, and they're not going to know who we are, and they're going to think we've sold the business. But do you know what? They just said, the general consensus was just, oh, have you changed team? No. Have you changed management? No. Have you changed the tea? No. Well, we don't really care what you're called.
That's it. Nobody cares about it quite as much as you. That's the truth of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's an interesting lesson to learn. And I think I've seen this happen a number of times with startups. Sometimes they're quite early on in their journey. Sometimes it's a bit later. And it's one of those areas where, the more you can kind of check at the beginning, the better. But you know what, you say, you can't check everything. It's
you really can't. And sometimes sometimes you have got to be a little bit ballsy with things, and you've got to move quickly, and you've got to, you learn from what your competitors are doing, and you sort of ask for advice from people. And occasionally, you do end up doing things not quite right. But once you've, found your feet, made some sales, organized yourself a bit more, that's when you can start, properly belts and braces everything. Trying to do everything perfectly to start with you're never going to get off the ground, to be honest.
Impossible to get out there. So then another fundraise, which was a biggie.
Yeah, that one was a big one.
A million with 1,600 or so.
Yeah,
my goodness,
huge. Yeah, I mean, we decided to go back to crowdfunding. We did explore other options at that point, other both debt and equity options, and fell back on crowdfunding again, which, again, very similar model. We made sure we had about 30% committed offline in advance. We reached back out to all our existing investors, asking them to reinvest. Quite a lot of them did, but we weren't expecting to hit 1 million, and we weren't expecting it to be 1,600 people. That was a little bit mind-boggling, to be honest. And we had a lot more from the sort of crowd this time. So a lot more people, well, still loads of customers, but yeah, a bigger chunk of people that were interested in the financial investment side. This looks like a great actual investment. And I think that was, the proof was in the pudding. Our accounts were really healthy. We'd had this constant, top line growth. And also we could in a very easy way, we could show, look, the people that invested in us in 2017, their shares are now worth this much, so get on board, because that's what we've proven since last time. I mean, obviously they're not worth anything until you do something with them, but in theory,
you're not only proving traction with the business itself, but you're proving that you can increase the value of the business, which is really what investors care about at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think also with, the crowdfunding, just like some other forms of investment, fundraising, it's about how passionate you are about it. It's how you tell the stories, obviously backed up with solid financials if you've got them. But I mean, even if our accounts and our financials were really strong, but not everyone's are, especially if you're in early days, or if you are, some people, don't have, healthy accounts because they're growing really quickly. As long as you can back up what you're doing and why, and you can explain it, you're passionate about it, people invest in you and the story, really, and the potential, I found, rather than really need to, especially on the crowd anyway,
Yeah, but
so being able to demonstrate the potential,
the profile of investors and how that shifts as you move along your own growth journey from the early days where it's, startup loan and some friends and family who are kind of go on, go for it. And then you move into the crowdfunding investors where you're selling the vision and the story. And then you're shifting into investors that are properly now looking at the numbers,
yes,
the economics of it. And
yes,
and it's knowing how to craft that narrative and that story as you move along the journey. That's a real skill, obviously, that you have honed along the way.
I think there's a good partnership in both Mike and myself. I'm a marketeer, I'm a people person, I'm very passionate, but I do know how to run a business. And Mike, on the flip side, he's very numbers orientated. His brain works in that way, and I think that the combination works really well to give people confidence. I think that if you didn't have the financial side of things, the interest in finance, I would get those solid before you try and do any sort of fundraising. But the talking about bringing it to life and this is what it could be like and that sort of thing, is marketing, really. It's about selling yourself. So we put that at the forefront, and it served us well.
Yes,
I don't want to advocate for not knowing your numbers, because that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, you have to sell the vision and the story first, and then you need to have the numbers to back it up. You can't do it without the two things. So, amazing success. I just wanted to sort of ask you because it for the listener, it might all sound like it was easy breezy, all of this. What was the hardest thing about raising those funds? I mean, that could be either your first raise or the more recent one. What was the most challenging thing?
I mean, at the time, I might have said that the attention we got from this sort of the trademark dispute and the name change, but actually looking back on that, I'm really grateful we did that. So I think the tricky thing was, I mean, it was a lot of work to get it done. You have to put in the hours, and both times, especially this time, we were warming up and having conversations with hundreds of people. So a lot of hours went into that, and people talking about investing quite big chunks of money, not just £10 here or there. Like, it's quite significant, some of the investments we got this time around from individuals. So they're really interviewing you and digging deep and challenging you on well, what are you going to do with this, and what about that, and you're getting grilled, and it's a lot of work, and it was quite challenging to go through that process whilst also operating a business, because the business can't stop having leadership, and we're still in a phase where Mike and I are quite actively involved in the business day to day. So we couldn't just stop our 9 till 5 to do that work. So that was quite challenging. But like anything that's worth it, you have got a hard graft. But undoubtedly the biggest challenge of the whole of the history of the business for me, out of everything, it was the shock to the system that came after raising that first time, and the sort of mayhem we were thrown into from not considering the wider impact of growing that quickly.
Yeah, growing pains.
And it was growing pains. Yeah,
I don't know whether I think it can be quite hard sometimes when you've done it through a crowdfund. And I don't know how you have your structure, whether you have a board or anything like that. But when you've got crowdfunding investors, they are quite arm's length. And just because you've got all of those hundreds of investors, they're not actually around to support you in the growth. So it's still you.
Yeah.
That's doing it. And suddenly, as you say, you're making that transition from being a founder, being a CEO, and all the stuff that comes with that. I mean, it has
been tricky. I think that was one of the pros that we thought, with crowdfunding, like you said, if we still want to, we're committed to getting them a return on their investment, and we will do that. But if we want, if I want to, I don't know, open a matcha bar or something, this month, because I think it'd be brilliant branding and it'd be a great opportunity, and et cetera, I can still do that. I've still got the freedom to do that. Whereas if you have other type of investment, you'd be restricted potentially of what is that adding to the bottom line, and we didn't want that sort of control. However, the downside, like you said, is that Mike and I don't get held to account on a day-to-day basis, so it means we have to hold ourselves to account, which we do, but that can be tricky. And also the things that you do get from, say, an angel investor or private equity sometimes even, is they do help you with the growth. They can help as a mentor or sitting on your board, or they open up connections for, recruitment, and they bring their knowledge and they bring their sort of more grown up, guidance. And yeah, sometimes I think, oh, that would be quite helpful actually.
Mind you, there are other ways of getting that support.
There are. Yeah, correct. That's correct. Yes.
How you decide to structure your board or whatever.
Yes,
all again, part of the growing pains of scaling a business.
Absolutely.
So you've done this raise, which is fabulous, and we're into 2022 now. So what's next for you guys? More stores, international expansion? What can we expect to see from Bird and Blend?
Yeah, we are going to open some more stores. The most recent round of stores that we've just opened, which we used some of this money for, a little bit of the money for, was we tried out a slightly different profile for the store. So slightly more high street, not completely high, but higher footfall, more prominent cities. And that's going really, really well. So we'll probably do a few more of them. And we're going to continue investing. It's boring, but we've just invested in a big new systems deck for tech stack, for, our online fulfillment and how we do our stock and all of that sort of thing, because we've outgrown the spread. We were literally still running on spreadsheets this time last year. So we've outgrown that now. So we've invested in that. And the big chunk of the money is also going into our ethics and sustainability. So we've just going through B Corp at the moment, which we're really excited about, working on a couple of social and community-based foundational projects as well, and a couple of sustainability projects that we really want to get sorted, get kicked off. So Mike and I have always tried to do business in a good way. The packaging's always, 99% of packaging has been biodegradable since day one, and we've always tried to treat people fairly and ethical, and we're a fantastic place to work. But the raising of this money has meant that rather than just doing business in a good way, we're hoping to be able to cause some good in the world around us. So I'm really excited, as is Mike, that we get to do that. That was part of the mission statement when we started a business, was to to prove you could build a business in this way that puts people first and does good and is profitable and makes money and can, raise investment. And we've done that. And now it's okay, right? How can we use our reach, and our resources to actually make a difference out there in our supply chain, in our community, with our team? And so, yeah, that sounds a bit hippie-ish, but that's what I'm really excited about. So.
No, but it's not. And I think those ambitions are shared by many founders. And I think that's the way, we need to be doing business. And investors are looking for that too. They want to make
Absolutely,
sure that businesses they back are making a difference. So well, congratulations. And
thank you.
You go and visit a Bird and Blend store near you if you can't.
Yeah, please do.
Check it out online. Thank you so much, Chrissy, and look forward to following your continued success. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for following Fundraising Stories with Female Founders. This content is all provided to you for free, so if you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe so you never miss another one. Enter the Arena has helped hundreds of female founders fly through pre-raise and investment and onto the exponential growth of their business. Our first-hand experience, expert guidance, and proven programs help female founders unleash the Wonder Woman inside. To see if we can help you do the same, head over to www.enterthearena.co.uk. I'm Julia Elliott Brown, and I look forward to talking with you soon.